Some of you know that this year I have been engaged in a doctoral program at Drew Theological School, and one of the unintentional, I did not plan it this way, one of the unintentional joys of this process has been when I have engaged in intensive classes in person at the school. I have typically been the only white male in the classroom. This is a very unusual experience for me. In fact, this past week, there were 4 people from the Caribbean in the class, and there was 1 white male American. And some of you, perhaps many of you, would not be surprised to hear that that experience has helped me change my mind about a few things and the way reality works, right? Some of you are really used to the idea that there isn't just one single white male identity or way of looking at things for everything. And for some of us, this is, in fact, news. So I have had my views changed, and for the better. This experience during the course of this week reminded me of a subreddit called Change My View. Is anyone here a subscriber or a user of the Change My View subreddit on reddit.com? Okay, so this is an online forum of discussion points where one can write a message with a nagging feeling that you want help with. I have held view X, but something doesn't seem quite right to me about this view. And so here is the argument that I have been holding on to for a long time, and I want you to help me change this argument with intelligence and integrity. Now, several years ago, someone wrote on Change My View, "For as long as I can remember, the TV commercials for Trix cereal have followed the same pattern. A well-meaning white rabbit wants nothing more than to enjoy the supposed deliciousness of Trix cereal, but his attempts are repeatedly shut down by antagonistic children who without fail close with the catchphrase, 'Silly rabbit, Trix are for kids.' I believe that these commercials lead to the following ill effects. They encourage, to a target audience of children no less, exclusivity and discrimination towards those who fall outside of one's own demographic. They frustrate viewers who are empathetic with the rabbit and want to see him find happiness. They are arguably counterproductive. I refuse to buy Trix cereal until the rabbit begins receiving fair treatment. Change my view. This is what I'm saying should change. They don't give any good reason for this, and therefore it is a short distance. They don't give any good reason for Trix are only for kids, and therefore it is a short distance to marriages for straights, education is for whites, and leadership positions are for men. Change my view." Okay. So you now have a multiplicity of viewpoints that explode on Change My View. Some people saying, yes, this commercial does not teach healthy life lessons for children. And then others who respond, my Lord and my God, this is a commercial. But then some people start to get a little smarter. Can children determine if this cartoon rabbit is fiction, and therefore draw a distinction between that fiction and real-life situations, they ask? If the child believes that discriminating against the rabbit is okay, is it healthy for a child to determine that some kinds of discrimination are in fact okay? And are some kinds of discrimination okay? Meaning Trix the rabbit is so obsessed with eating Trix cereal that he may have some very serious life issues that require intervention. Then someone says, well, let's say the children can't determine between fact and fiction, but from a morality point of view, then it is necessary to keep the cereal from the rabbit because corn-based products are difficult for a rabbit to digest, and sugary cereal will lead to fatty liver disease and obesity among cartoon rabbits. Therefore, the children are serving the highest needs of the rabbit by preventing him from eating Trix cereal. Then someone else points out that this conversation has a critical piece of information that is missing. In 1976, General Mills let kids vote about whether to let Trix the rabbit eat Trix cereal. And with proof of purchase, kids were able to vote, and they overwhelmingly voted yes, Trix should be allowed to eat Trix cereal. And so when Trix the rabbit tried Trix cereal, not only did he love the cereal, he behaved like a complete maniac and couldn't control himself at all. He bounces up and down, he lands in trees, he wraps himself around banners in the city, his eyes permanently crossed, his tongue comes out and stays out around the side of his mouth. It is not a pretty sight at all. And as we know in hedonistic cultures, the fulfillment of desire, eating the cereal, does not lead to satisfaction. I've tried it, now I'm happy. It only leads to a multiplication of desire. I want more. So at the end of the day, yep, Trix are for kids. Just not my kids, which is a whole different conversation. I'm not telling you this because the gospel is contained within a box of Trix cereal. Rather, I am fascinated by the idea that Change My View exists at all, and it exists and it now has 500,000 subscribers. Change My View. How refreshing in our world in 2017. A pursuit of knowledge that recognizes that there may be flaws with our own thinking, there is something nagging at us that isn't quite right, and then subjecting those views for others to interpret. Refreshing for all the obvious reasons, of course. When I am my better self, I still want this. Most of us still want this. The ability to improve or change our minds, and for that to be seen as a strength rather than a weakness. To be confronted with new data and then choose to grow into that rather than reflexively walling ourselves off from the information that can help us grow into a fuller understanding of the issue or life itself. The gospel reading for today seems as if it is fundamentally about what to do with your money. It's simple, I've heard many times before. It's simple. Jesus says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. Jesus said it, I believe it, that settles it. But after reading and rereading that passage, off and on for about 20 years or so, I still don't know what that actually means. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And I've come to a conclusion, and I'm willing to have my view changed, of course, but I've come to the conclusion that the passage is about many things, one of which is that Matthew, the author of the Gospel of Matthew, really doesn't like Pharisees. And you can see that here, right? What other conclusion would you come to? And also that the way they are portrayed is that they are disingenuous. They have no intention of getting to the bottom of any particular problem. They are just asking Jesus to either commit sedition. If he says it isn't lawful to pay taxes, then he does in fact commit a treasonous act in the empire. Or they are trying to get him to commit idolatry. If Jesus says anything that implies that giving taxes to Caesar is virtuous, then he praises raising money for the military that keeps all Jewish people in check. Sedition or idolatry, pick your poison. Either way, we have got you. And the initial blood in the water is this: Teacher, we know you are sincere and that you teach the way of God. What we are presented with is a form of argumentation that does not hope to illuminate, but simply entrap. And we all know how hard this is. When we are stuck within a particular paradigm for arguing or debating or teasing out an answer, it is very hard to change the arc of a debate toward things that actually matter. One thing is for sure, in among this sugary, syrupy flattery is some serious nonsense. And we have all had the experience of understanding, especially in 2017, that there is a difference between eloquence and intelligence. This trap is eloquent, but it is not intelligent. Jesus and his interlocutors are in the temple. Jesus says, "Show me the coin used for the tax." A Roman coin is shown. Jews are specifically prohibited from carrying coins with living images on them in the temple. The money changers provided a very necessary service. You come with your normal imperial coins that have living things on them, living things like the face of Caesar. And to purchase anything at the temple, that money had to be changed for a coin with another image that did not bear a living thing, a letter, a number, harvested crops, whatever. It just can't be a living thing. They're in the temple. Show me the coin used for the tax. They pull it out. Every single first century Jew will see this and wonder, why on earth do you have that coin inside the temple? What else are you hiding? Their credibility disappears in an instant. They may have sounded intelligent, but they are merely being eloquent. So Jesus doesn't give an answer, no matter how hard we might try to suggest this is a complete answer. Instead, he unveils the hypocrisy, he even says this, but more importantly, he changes the conversation. You ask, is it lawful to pay the tax? And I'm asking you, is it right? That is a critical difference. Is it lawful and is it moral? Jesus does not do this by answering them with a formula, but by guiding the conversation in a new direction. The Pharisees in question, the disciples, Matthew's community, and everyone else is left wondering with this exchange. So then, what belongs to God? This is a foundational question for any person of faith, any human being that belongs to a faith system. What belongs to God? And right about now, maybe you're thinking, I shouldn't assume that I know what you're thinking, but maybe you're thinking, I get it. I see where this is going. You're going to tell me on the first Sunday of stewardship season that my money belongs to God. And now you're going to tell me what I owe, and specifically what I now owe to the church. And I'm not. I think that kind of conclusion is precisely the framework that the Pharisees are after in this passage. That there is an obligation to an institution, and now here's a formula for fulfilling it. I have very little idea how God thinks. Period. I certainly don't know how God thinks about money. We make many affirmations in our faith about what belongs to God. The 24th Psalm makes the bold and simple claim that the earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it. And so we make some affirmations. We don't own the oceans. We don't own the rivers. Any claim to own water is rather strange, even if it happens all the time and it leads to human suffering when we do that. This is how my grandfather lives in me. He was the only person I knew as a kid that happily drank tap water with his meals when he wasn't drinking beer. I've told you that story before, but he would look at a glass of water and he'd grandstand a little bit. But he would talk about the beauty of water's clarity. What a gift. To have something in life that was clear and a constant reminder of the purity of creation, that to sip it was to be reminded of God. The earth is the Lord's, and those who live in it. We don't own people. We are horrified now at the thought that in 2017, some people still own other people in a variety of forms, whether they be children used for sex trafficking or child soldiers or people indebted to another, even to the degree that they are owned. We know from our own American legacy the kinds of lasting scars owning people leaves. And so we affirm the earth is the Lord's and those who live in it. Change my view. I have a nagging feeling deep within, and some of you may as well. Here's my nagging feeling. Money is an expression of power in this world. Money has the capacity to empower, and it has the capacity to disempower. The nationalist apartheid government of South Africa was disempowered by divestment. I empower a business owner by utilizing their services. I have a nagging feeling deep within, and some of you might as well, that there must be guiding principles in my life for this expression of power. There must be ways of aligning my values and everything I say I believe in with my expression of power. Change my view. It won't do to say that I will invest my resources in vehicles whose only goal, whose singular goal is to return money to me, if I do not also find ways to strategically empower groups of people who belong to God, who have been disempowered for a variety of reasons. What does it profit me? What does it profit you to live comfortably if it has in any way contributed to the suffering of the earth or its people? I am personally invested in a social index fund. I have been trying to do the right thing. This fund screens for environmental and social concerns that help me believe that my investment is not contributing to the harm of the planet or other people. Shareholders were recently asked to vote on an anti-genocide screen to be built into the fund. The directors of the fund recommended that the shareholders not utilize this additional screen because it would add an additional cost to the shareholders. A small cost, but still a cost, saying it was not worth that cost, and they were not confident that the screen would do what it sets out to do. Which should lead to other questions, right? How do you get to a place that does not, in fact, empower genocide, whether it is directly or indirectly? And so here we are, expressing power in what I believe to be a virtuous fashion, and now I'm being told that my money may or may not directly or indirectly contribute to genocide. But we are not going to offer any further clarity on that topic for you, the person or the institution that has expressly desired to try and do the next right thing. Change my view. There has got to be a better way. A more faithful way, a way of giving to God what is God's. This is our story. We have reimagined some things at Union since 2015, and we continue to do so. Is it possible to reimagine investment? What does that mean to invest in something? What does it mean to use money as an expression of power? What does it mean to take a fundamental pillar of our culture, that the only thing investment is for is to make more money, and square that with the earth and those who live in it, that they belong to God? Change my view. May God's peace be with you.